Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking your yard from, just average to absolute neighborhood envy. Seriously, if you've ever driven past one of those stunning, perfectly manicured properties and thought, how on earth do they pull that off? Well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break down the exact science and those pro-level techniques you need to replicate that premium look right at home. So let's just dive right into the ultimate question. How do you actually get that pristine, ballpark-level look without hiring an expensive landscaping crew? Honestly, it's way more accessible than you might think. You absolutely do not need a degree in horticulture for this. It really just comes down to adopting a few specific habits, dodging some really common traps, and learning a couple of visual tricks that yield, frankly, massive results. Here is how we're going to build out your landscaping expertise today. First up, the golden mowing rules. Second, navigating the wet grass trap. Third, mastering the crisp edge. And finally, creating those beautiful ballpark stripes right at home. All right, Section 1, the golden mowing rules. If you want a yard that looks like $1,000,000, you've got to prioritize the underlying health of the grass plant itself. It's all about working smarter, not harder. The absolute golden rule here, and you should definitely commit this to memory, is the rule of thirds. Never ever remove more than the top third of the grass blade in a single mow. This is going to be your recurring mantra for a healthy, weed-resistant lawn. Because think about it, if you scalp the lawn, you immediately stunt the root growth, and that basically sends a VIP invite for weeds to just take over. You've also got to watch your heights. You're aiming for about 4 centimeters in the spring and autumn, but go ahead and drop it to around 2.5 centimeters during the summer heat. Another massive, game-changing takeaway? Alternate your mowing pattern. If you're out there mowing in the exact same direction every single week, the grass actually learns to lean that way. Plus, you'll end up carving these permanent ruts right into your soil. Mixing it up forces the grass to grow straight and upright. Oh, and of course, if you've got newly seeded grass, you really have to give it a solid 3 to 4 weeks before you even think about firing up the mower. Now, look at the stark contrast between amateur mistakes and pro habits when it comes to equipment. Dull blades, they don't actually cut. They literally tear and shred your grass. Those ragged, frayed edges, they turn brown, which makes your entire yard look parched, even if you water it religiously. And worse, those open, torn wounds are basically an open door for fungal diseases. Sharp blades, on the other hand, slice cleanly. That clean cut locks in the plant's moisture, promotes rapid healing, and keeps that lush, dark green appearance. Seriously, you should be sharpening those blades at the very first sign of wear. Moving on to Section 2, the wet grass trap. It is officially time to bust the myth that you can just mow whenever you happen to have a free hour, especially after a heavy rainstorm or early in the morning when that dew is heavy. Because mowing wet grass actually triggers a literal chain reaction of disaster. It's not just a minor inconvenience, it is actively harming your lawn. See, because water weighs the grass blades down, the mower just kind of glides over some of them, leaving you with this terribly patchy, uneven haircut. Furthermore, diseases spread like wildfire because these sticky fungal spores cling right to your wet mower blades, getting distributed everywhere you drive. You are also running a massive risk of soil compaction. Wet soil compresses super easily under the weight of those mower wheels, and that literally suffocates the grass roots, causing deep ruts. Actually, a great rule of thumb to remember, just walk across the grass. If your shoes get wet, hold off on mowing. 18,500. Take a second to process that. That is the staggering number of emergency room visits involving power mowers over a recent 3-year period. Beyond just ruining your turf or totally clogging up your mower engine, wet grass is a massive, massive safety hazard. A huge percentage of these injuries happen when operators just unexpectedly slip on that slick wet grass and fall right into the mower's path. It is absolutely 100% not worth the risk. Now, having said that, reality happens, right? If you're stuck in a multi-week rainy spell and you absolutely have to mow, you must mitigate the damage by following a really strict protocol. First, raise your mower deck. Getting it up to around 2 to 3.75 inches prevents those wet clumps from choking out the engine. Next, make double sure your blades are freshly sharpened to minimize any tearing. Third, slow down. You need to drop your walking speed significantly to prevent that uneven finish we talked about. And finally, ditch the bagging or mulching modes entirely. You have to use the side discharge setting so those heavy, wet clippings get forcefully ejected instead of turning into this thick paste underneath your mower deck. All right, Section 3, mastering the crisp edge. Now that we have a perfectly cut, completely dry lawn, let's talk boundaries. Boundary definition is truly what separates a good yard from a great one. It frames the lawn, kind of like how a really nice picture frame highlights a painting. Now, the actual edging process relies on a very specific sequence. Rule number 1, we always mow first. If you try to edge long grass, it just obscures your border and makes a massive mess. So once mowed, you map your boundary. You can use a garden hose if you want smooth, flowing curves, or a string line if you need perfectly straight driveways. Then make a shallow initial cut with a half moon or a power edger just to trace the line. After that, deepen that trench to create a solid barrier. Finally, carefully remove those excess turf and soil strips with a flat spade, and just clean up any strayed, hanging blades with your edging shears. Hitting an exact 8 to 10 centimeter depth, that is the absolute pro secret to forming what landscapers call the shadow line. And it's not just about looking good. By digging a precisely angled trench to this exact depth, you're building a permanent physical barrier right there in the soil. It physically stops those aggressive, creeping grass roots from invading your beautiful flower beds or spilling over your sidewalks, all while keeping that crisp, professional aesthetic. Honestly, putting in the sweat equity to establish this deep trench once will immensely reduce your manual maintenance over the long haul. But to maintain that incredibly crisp look without breaking your back every single week, you really need the right tools for the job. A half-moon edger, that's your best friend for establishing those classic, precise borders. After that's done, a standard string trimmer held perfectly vertical is fantastic for quick, bi-weekly touch-ups. If you're managing a larger property, walk-behind power edgers will literally save you hours. But what's truly mind-blowing is the technology we have available now. You can actually leverage AI-guided robotic mowers, like the Sunseeker S3 or S4. They have these specific edge reach modes where they map out your yard and physically drive right on the boundary lines. They handle all the border touch-ups for you automatically. It's wild. And now, Section 4, Ballpark Stripes at Home. This is it. It is time to unlock the ultimate landscaping flex, turning your backyard into a literal major league outfield. So first, let's pull back the curtain on this illusion, okay? A lot of people think you have to cut the grass at different heights or maybe even use different grass seeds to get this effect. That is completely false. It looks like this complex magic trick, but in reality, it is simply mechanically bent grass reflecting sunlight. That's the whole secret. Here is exactly how the trick works. Mowers that are designed for striping have these heavy, full-width rollers mounted on the back of the deck. As you drive, the roller simply pushes and bends the grass in the direction you're traveling. Now, when the grass is bent toward your line of sight, the tips absorb the sunlight, which makes it appear to your eye as this deep, dark green stripe. But when you turn around and mow away from your line of sight, the long, broad side of the grass blade gets exposed. This reflects the sunlight back at you, appearing as a much lighter green ribbon. Alternate your passes back and forth, and boom, you get that beautiful contrasting pattern. Of course, to pull this off like a professional groundskeeper, you really need a game plan. Sketching your design on paper first is highly recommended, especially if you're attempting complex designs like checkerboards or diamonds. When you head out to start, lay down a piece of string as a physical guide for your very first perfectly straight line. Trust me, if that first pass is crooked, the whole entire lawn will be crooked. When you get to the end of a row, execute these slow, wide V-turns instead of sharp pivots. Otherwise, you'll tear up the turf with your wheels. Once you're done with the main pattern, drive a few cleanup border passes around the entire perimeter just to smooth out those messy turnaround areas. Oh, and here is a fantastic insider trick. Right before you have guests coming over, spray a very quick, light mist of water over the grass to enhance the contrast. Those water droplets act like thousands of tiny prisms, making the light and dark blades pop vibrantly in the sun. Just remember, you've got to alternate your pattern direction every 2 weeks to prevent wear and tear and keep the grass from laying flat permanently. So, armed with the golden rule of thirds, the crucial safety checks for wet grass, those crisp edging techniques, and the science behind light reflection, you now possess the exact same playbook the pros use. Your yard is no longer just grass. It's a blank canvas waiting for a masterpiece. So take a look out the window right now. What are you going to tackle this weekend? Are we thinking checkerboard, diamonds, or just those beautiful classic stripes?